welcome to the Urban Agorist Podcast, episode number 11. My name is James, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Sal Mayweather. Sal is a memesmith, a podcaster, a writer, an entrepreneur, a crypto enthusiast, and a full-time agorist. Before we get into it with Sal, let me tell you about Tom Woods' Liberty Classroom. Libertarian historian Tom Woods has assembled a dream team of libertarian scholars in economics, history, philosophy, logic, and even literature to give you the education that you didn't get in school. Head to urbanagorist.com/woods for more information and to sign up today. That's urbanagorist.com/woods. And with that, let's get into it with Sal the Agorist Mayweather. All right, Sal, welcome to the show.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been following you for quite a while. I knew you on Instagram as just, a memesmith, and I saw your name, Sal the Agorist, and I didn't realize that there was anybody who actually was an agorist at that point. I was like, oh, this guy's just trying to be an edgy ANCAP. How did you come up on it and kind of move beyond ANCAPism before everybody else?
I sort of got lucky when I discovered the liberty movement. I was sort of introduced to it almost via agorism, kind of. I
that is
really
lucky.
Early on. Yeah, it was, especially considering like Bitcoin and stuff. But like very early on, like when I first found Ron Paul, I was very intrigued by the whole economic aspects of libertarianism. So I found out that Peter Schiff and Walter Block were two of his economic advisors. I was like, let me look up these guys. And then I start to see like these Peter Schiff was right videos, and he's basically calling the 2008 housing crisis, and I was like shocked by it. And then I saw Walter Block giving economics lectures, like academic style lectures, explaining the theories that Peter Schiff was using. And it sort of all just clicked for me. And then I went to PorcFest in like 2014, and I attended seminars on 3D printing. I attended like aquaponics seminars. There was people using and exchanging cryptocurrency and silver coins. And that was where I really learned how to live as an anarchist rather than just think like one.
Yeah.
Then I started reading Konkin when I returned, and I realized, oh wow, this is called agorism. And the philosophy, the more I read Konkin, the more I realized there was this whole articulated philosophy behind it that was sort of distinct from anarcho-capitalism, and I thought that was really appealing. So that's sort of the small take.
One of the really cool things about it is, libertarians are so into logical consistency, and the rest of the world just doesn't care about logical. You try to argue from logic with just any normal person, even an intelligent normal person, and they don't care. My dog's barking, so if the mic picks it up, that's whatever. They don't care about logical consistency. They want what works. And that's the greatest thing in the world to me about agorism, is that it's also just so happens to be what works. There have been counter-economic actions for the history of humanity, and the stronger the powers that be get, the stronger the counter-economics gets.
That's why I think it's sort of inevitable, right? The more that they fight back, it's just, it's like for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. It's sort of the same thing in politics and economics. Every step that they take, the agorists and the black market, the counter-economists take two steps towards them. And it's sort of in that way that we're going to get to a freer economy, right? Look what happened when they cartelized the taxi cartels. When they cartelized the taxi business in New York City. That's what created the demand for someone to create Uber. When they cartelized the hotel industry, that creates the demand for Airbnb. When they devalue the dollar, that creates the demand for sound money, cryptocurrency, and silver coins and stuff like that. So the more that they push, the more that they just push all of that stuff gets pushed into the gray and black markets, which I think is wonderful, because those are the only truly free and anarchic markets.
What do you think? So I was talking to Per Beelan the other day, and he made the really good point that even something as simple and basic as roads is really a government subsidy for industry. where do you think we would be right now as far as sound money, logistics, infrastructure? This is a huge question, but where would we be if the state hadn't inserted itself so much into infrastructure?
Do you ever see those memes where it's like just says if X, Y, and Z happened, and then on the bottom it was like sort of like the space age?
Yeah,
that's sort of where I envision like a world of sound money. First of all, we know that you wouldn't have had this whole ginormous welfare warfare state of the 20th century. You wouldn't have had things like World War I, World War II, and the Cold War, because they couldn't have afforded that stuff. You wouldn't have had the Great Society and all that nonsense, the war against poverty, the whole welfare state. You wouldn't have had that stuff because you couldn't afford it. So that right off the bat, we would all be a lot better off without that. Credit would be a lot tighter. Right? It would be a lot more restricted because there wouldn't be as much easy money floating around. But I think that's good because credit has been too loose, right? I mean, look at the student loan bubble. There's no way that some of these kids should be getting $100,000 loans with no credit history whatsoever. So you need to sort of retract that credit. And also, when you have a sound money system, you have less cultural degeneracy. You have like a more stable values. Mm-hmm. And that's all, Hop talks a lot about time preference and stuff like that. But I firmly believe that if you can get rid of the central bank, sort of everything, all the dominoes sort of will fall into place. Yeah. That's why I think cryptocurrency is such a powerful tool.
Yeah, I think probably things would be a little bit lower tech. Well, not even lower tech, just like different tech. I think that's probably where I differ from like the Ted Kaczynski, for instance, who thinks that technology, I think, is inherently bad. For me, it's like the technology has just been artificially inflated by artificial infrastructure.
I think we'd probably be. I disagree with Kaczynski on in the Anprims, the Jonathan Zerzins of the world. That's all nonsense. I mean, look at what 3D printing and the blockchain has done to liberate society and all these other technological advancements. So that I dismissed that immediately. Insofar as where we'd be as far as technology, imagine if all of a sudden like people had a more stable currency to rely on, and they were thinking about investing in the future because, right now as it stands, your money loses value. So you have an incentive to spend it today rather than wait, 5 years.
Yeah.
If that incentive wasn't there and and everybody was saving capital, there would be more money around for investment and production into newer and better resources. The other thing too is the whole economic concept of timing, right? Like look at something like the moon landing, right? That only happened because the state was involved in it. If it was left to a market to do it, and this is the point Walter Block makes in Space Capitalism, is that, maybe we wouldn't have landed on the moon in 1969, but maybe those companies would have been building up more product and research or development or something. And then maybe in, 1989, instead of going to the moon, we built a base there and went to Mars. We would be even further ahead of the ball than we are today.
That's fantastic. I haven't read Space Capitalism. I have a feeling that would answer a lot of the questions that I've got, actually.
Oh, it's great. Walter Block's the man.
So speaking of 3D printing, so you've got a 3D printer business. Which I think you said that's your primary means of income at this point, right? Or as far as we know?
Yeah. Essentially, I do just general e-commerce. That's sort of one aspect of it. Okay. So that's like the most in the spotlight with like the libertarian community. But I do other stuff like stupid stuff online that's not related to libertarianism. It's like affiliate marketing, content marketing, stuff like that. So
so you do like all the cool online business stuff that I'm wearing my Pat Flynn t-shirt actually under this hoodie. So
yes,
I've been a huge fan of that stuff. So talk about 3D printing though. Where is it right now? Why should somebody buy a 3D printer now and not wait 5 years for the technology to advance a little bit?
Well, you should buy one whenever you're ready. The way I look at it, though, is that the sooner the better. The quicker you can jump in on this, the better off you're going to be. I personally think sooner rather than later you're going to get something like a mandatory buyback or something crazy like that. and you need to be ready. So, let's say they come around, they come door to door, and they come for your guns, which is a matter of time. Everybody says, "Oh, I'm going to shoot back." Well, that's not the proper response. You're going to die, right? You're going to get yourself blown away by the National Guard or something. And that's not good. So give them your gun. Give them your guns. Let them take them. But then if you have a 3D printer on site, it doesn't matter. You can have all my guns because within a day, I'll have them all back again.
So that's what you mean when you say that Cody ended the gun control debate.
Yeah. Yes.
It just doesn't matter.
Right. It does. It's irrelevant at this point. And, Ivan had a lot to do with that too. Ivan the Troll. So the two of them, essentially, they've, what the NRA has been paid billions to attempt to do, these two young individuals have done just by creating code, which I think is beautiful,
Yeah. Well, and they're also not raking in the billions that the NRA has created.
Which sort of upsets me because they actually deserve it, whereas the NRA doesn't, you know?
Exactly. So what else? So for someone who's not as interested in firearms, or for whom that's a great benefit, but also they might want to monetize their 3D printing or just really use it around the house for something. What are some of the everyday benefits of owning one?
Oh, for sure. Like most of the stuff that I make isn't even like guns and stuff. I'm in a pretty good space. Like I'm in Florida right now, which is pretty good for guns. Most of the stuff that I make though isn't even, it's just, stupid trinkets and toys and things around the house. I've got friends who, do like cosplay and they have like full on Iron Man suits that are 3D printed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can make anything. I also use it when I was into aquaponics. I had a big aquaponics setup and I would 3D print parts and supplies for that. It's good for like hard to find items, rapid prototyping, things like that. I know a few people who have Etsy stores where they'll like make stuff on Etsy, all sorts of different stuff. But firearms is just part of it. The true, the real promise of 3D printing wasn't even in firearms, right? You're just really a 3D printer is just disintermediating the manufacturing industry the same way that Bitcoin disintermediated the banking industry. And that includes the firearms manufacturing industry, but it's not limited to that. But the real dream and the real hope of 3D printing was always integrated with smart contracts, right? The idea was that, rather than buying something from Walmart.com, you sign on to Walmart.com and you click download, and then your 3D printer in the basement gives you a notification on your phone that 30 minutes later that item, that product is in your basement.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it also helps integrate with the Internet of Things that way too. So there's a huge ton of promise, and just in the last 5 years alone, the prices of 3D printers has gone down by, I'd say, about 50% or more. So it might be the case that in 5 or 10 years, the prices come down even more and the technology increases even more so.
Yeah. Although right now there is kind of that sense of urgency to get, to arm up, I guess.
To prepare, right.
So smart contracts, that reminds me of the Jetsons. We kind of are living in the future. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. So you're in Florida now. I always knew you as a Jersey boy. What happened?
I sort of just kind of had enough. It was kind of messed up because I always loved living in the Northeast. It was pretty great. Even despite the high cost of living and the taxes and the terrible, the lack of civil liberties and all that stuff, the just being in New York, it was always worth it. There was always something to do. There was an event or a restaurant or a bar. Every night we were doing something. And, that sort of went out the window with, Bill de Blasio turned into a literal ghetto, literal World War II style ghetto at this point. You can't do anything. So I thought to myself, what am I doing?
up to and including persecuting the Jews.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. They're going around Brooklyn rounding up Jewish religious services. So that just goes to show you.
Well, all right. And so you said that you had also planned on maybe following in Vin's footsteps and going to Saipan or somewhere else in the.
Well, my real plan. I wasn't even supposed to be here in Florida. My real plan was I was going to be out of the country by now. I was going to be. I was supposed to be in Southeast Asia at this time of the year, but you can't. You need to let them stick a Q-tip in your brain to get out of the country. So I'm not playing that game. That's not going to happen. So I'm in Florida for now, and it's pretty good. There's no mask requirements. It's not a bad compromise. The weather's nice. but I want to explore, and you can't. So
yeah, that's cool. Hopefully things will lighten up eventually. I've got a friend who's he's been trying to move to Japan to teach English for the last year, and he finally got a date. He's moving January 6th, so we'll see. Just in time for the inauguration, I guess.
But you need that PCR test, though, don't you?
I'm sure he'll get one. He's
right. Okay.
Well, let's first before we go on to like my next bullet point, I guess. Talk about crypto a little bit. I think you're kind of an advocate for Bitcoin Cash, right?
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Essentially the way I look at it is you have to have some sort of, if you want to get rid of the Federal Reserve, you need to have a medium of exchange that can compete with their product, that can compete with the dollar. And the only way to do that is to have an efficient medium of exchange, right? It's not going to work if it costs money for me to pay you for a good or a service. So if I have to pay just to complete that transaction, that's not a very saleable or marketable commodity. So Bitcoin Cash has really low transaction fees. It's basically, it gets sent back and forth instantaneously. And you can't really do that with other cryptocurrencies. Of the cryptocurrencies that you can do that with, they all lack adoption. The only one that really is both adopted in mass and is an efficient medium of exchange is Bitcoin Cash. So that's the reason why I promote that one for agorist and counter-economic purposes. The biggest problem we have, going back to what we said earlier, is the Federal Reserve. And, the biggest tool we have in that fight is Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah. And I'm a complete noob when it comes to this, so forgive me for super elementary questions, but
right.
So here recently, Bitcoin Cash forked, right?
Yes.
So what does that mean, and what does that mean for people who hold Bitcoin Cash? And what does it mean from a technical standpoint too? As dumb as you can possibly make it for me.
Right. So essentially, just the whole Bitcoin Cash network sort of split into two coins, into two different networks, and it's really sort of beautiful if you think about it, because it all happened because there was this sort of rogue development firm within the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem. It was sort of the main development firm that sort of started to behave in a controversial way. And to me, it's like I said, just beautiful that you can have a decentralized network, extricate someone in a peaceful and voluntary fashion, without no blood, no police involved, no nothing. It happened all peacefully, and it was all based on their controversial actions. Imagine if we tried to get rid of Jerome Powell. Right, it would be there would be military in the streets if the people tried to remove Jerome Powell from the Federal Reserve. Literally, there would be the National Guard would be in New York City. So to me, it just goes and shows you the difference between fiat currency and sound currency. And I think it's, like I said, I think it's a beautiful thing. But for the average Bitcoin Cash user, it doesn't really mean much at the end of the day. Bitcoin ABC, which is the forked chain, has 0 hash power. The last time I checked, in other words, no one is mining it. Like literally no one is mining this coin. So it's basically dead. And I think that's good. So I'm excited. I think, going through these sorts of changes is part of the maturation process for any commodity.
Right now, so when I spend crypto, I spend it on gift cards that I can use at other locations. Actually, it might have been you where I heard that from. There's an app called Fold, and then another one called Gift with a Y. But they only take Bitcoin. Where do you spend Bitcoin Cash? Because like you said, to transact with Bitcoin takes forever. I mean, sometimes my transaction just times out, and I have to
and the fees are astronomical. Yeah, especially now, like when the price is high and the network is congested, it's like super expensive. I tried to move like $3,000 or $4,000 like a week or two ago, and they wanted I was supposed to pay like $100 or $200 in transaction fees, which is absurd. It's crazy. You can't do business this way. So I normally use Bitcoin Cash, and I don't do the whole gift card thing. What I do is I actually KYC'd myself, and I've got the BitPay card. So I just send Bitcoin Cash to my BitPay card, and it just tops up. And then I can, let's say if I send $500 to my card, then I can spend up to $500 on my BitPay card. So for all intents and purposes, it normalizes the whole spending experience.
Nice. I was looking into BitPay the other day, actually. So maybe I'll look a little bit deeper.
Yeah, crypto.com is another one, and I think they give you like, I don't know, they check like the differences and like costs and stuff, but crypto.com will give you like all sorts of goodies if you sign up for them. Like I think there's like a free subscription to Spotify and some other stuff in there.
Oh, nice. Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. So I'll link to both of those in the show notes too, so that the audience can kind of do their own due diligence, because I think it's important that we start adopting this stuff, and the easier that is, the better. So you mentioned KYC, and you pride yourself on being the 3D printer purveyor who doesn't have KYC. I know that means know your customer. I know it has something to do with spying, but can you go a little bit deeper into it as to what it is?
Yeah.
And who's watching it?
Of course. So KYC is just know your customer laws. KYC is it's an identity verification process that the state forces financial institutions to put their customers through. This way they can track your purchases, and if you buy anything illegal, they know who to come and arrest. That's why you can't buy heroin or drugs or anything like that with your debit card, because they're going to know who you are and where you are. Mm-hmm. By accepting cryptocurrency, we've removed KYC from the whole buying process, from the whole purchasing process of 3D printers. I sort of noticed the gap in the market there, because that's sort of one of the things you would think people wouldn't want to have their identity tied to. So this is why Satoshi invented Bitcoin. Yeah. If you read the white paper, the first page is about KYC basically. So I put two and two together, and it worked. I'd say about maybe a little bit more than half. I'd say probably about 60% of all of our sales at 3D Printer Go Brrr come through in cryptocurrency. So it seems to be working. People seem to like it. Yeah,
I do it with crypto just for the novelty of it.
Right.
If not even for worrying about KYC. One other thing, a piece of advice that you give kind of a lot, is to tokenize your business. What does that mean? Is that the same thing as an ICO?
Sort of. It's kind of the same. So to tokenize your business, what I mean by that is, rather than going public, right, rather than listing shares of your company onto a stock exchange, by tokenizing your business, you sort of remove the SEC and FINRA from the process. Mm-hmm. So now the way it works is, let's say you own this like a chain of coffee shops or something like that that's growing, and now you're ready, you need more capital, whatever the case is, you want to go public. You can list on NASDAQ or something like that. And to do that, you'd have to go through the SEC's registration process, which is ridiculous. It costs you a whole ton of money. You have to pay a team of lawyers basically just to navigate the process. And if you do something wrong, forget it. You'll go to jail for something silly, and they'll ruin your life.
Yeah.
So don't do that. That's pointless, and that only adds money to the state's coffers. The way around that is to use the blockchain, is to instead of creating shares of a company, create tokens of a company. I recommend people do this using a simple ledger protocol, which is the token ecosystem for Bitcoin Cash. I really like it. It's super simple. Anybody really can create a token. I've created tokens before just playing around, and I've sent it to my friends and stuff. And it's very easy. And, like I said, this is how agorists are going to remove the FINRA and SEC from the process. And by doing that, what's going to happen, if you think about it, is now all of a sudden everybody in the world is going to have access to all of this additional capital, which will sort of unleash like this whole wave of innovation that I'm really looking forward to.
Mm-hmm. What does that look like in practice, tokenizing? Is it do people purchase tokens and then just sit on them, or are they using them like, I don't even know what that means, to be honest.
So you can go to mint.bitcoin.com, and you can create your own token, as many of them as you want, with all the different parameters built in as you see fit, and then distribute them to whomever you see fit. So let's say, for example, let's say your business was worth $10,000. You wanted to create 10,000 tokens. You would go to mint.bitcoin.com. and simply just mint out 10,000 tokens. And if your business is worth whatever it is, you can divvy up the cost between the amount of tokens, and that's what you could offer them for sale for.
So it's essentially just like shares, only without the added
government
baggage of a stock exchange. Oh man.
I know, it's brilliant, and most people don't even understand this concept yet. I try, when I explain this to most people, you just get this dumb look in their eyes. Most people don't understand what that means, like the implications of that.
So how easy would it be for, like, if you sold me a token of 3D Printer Go Brrr, would I then be able to sell that to somebody else? Would I need your approval? Would I be able to sell a portion of it?
You could trade them. That's a beautiful thing. You could trade them as you see fit. There's no oversight whatsoever.
What does that look like? Is it denominated as Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash or whatever, or is it like a BRR token or whatever?
Well, it would be like you would come up with the ticker symbol. So it would be like ABC. It would be the ticker symbol, and then whatever the associated value is per coin is up to you.
Cool. Man, that's definitely something to look into, and maybe somebody would like to do a course on that someday.
I know, and the thing about it is that no one seems to really grasp is that we're are you familiar with the Cambrian Explosion? How at that certain point in the history of Earth, there was this whole blossoming of different life forms all in the ocean and everywhere. We went from a couple forms of life to millions of different life forms. That's what we're going through with tokenization right now. We're going through this sort of Cambrian explosion. Everything is going to be tokenized in 5 to 10 years, and people don't see it yet. This is why I try to tell people you might think you're late to getting in on the Bitcoin train, but if you get in today on the tokenization, you still have plenty of time to make a boatload of money.
Are there any experts on that could actually teach a class on it, or would that be you? Or
no, I'm not a cryptographer or a computer science oriented individual. I'm just sort of in it for the counter economics. I've got a buddy, Gabriel Cardona. He used to do R&D at Bitcoin.com, and he's moved on to other projects now. But he coined the whole term Cambrian Explosion, and he's sort of my go-to guy on all of this.
Great. I'm going to edit this part out, but Fad made me director of education for his Agora University or whatever he's calling it,
nice.
the School of Agorism. So
very cool.
I'm in charge of finding professors. So
very cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
So it's pretty neat. Yeah, I saw you had an episode with him, and I don't think I've even listened to it.
Yeah, I think we probably went over the Cambrian Explosion, I think, in that episode.
Great, cool. Well, I'll make sure to look into it. Okay, great. So tokenizing businesses. What other ways are there for counter economists to sort of prosper right now? Because we're in, it's cliche, but we're in really uncertain times, and there's no telling what's going to happen with the mainstream economy.
Right. The rest of the world is in unstable times, but the counter economists aren't. We're thriving. Everything is well for us. Bitcoin is at nearing all-time highs. Gold and silver are going up and up and up, just as we predicted. The agorists who followed Konkin's advice and removed themselves from the whole wage slave sector of the economy and entered into entrepreneurship, they're doing well. So it's really just those who are stuck in the status paradigms that are suffering. It's so insofar as what can people do to secure their prosperity, I tell them, become your own bank, get a 3D printer, and grow your own food. Those are the three ways, I think. They're probably the three easiest ways that you can protect yourself against what's coming.
What does it mean to be your own bank?
Yeah, so essentially, if you think about it, obviously the whole banking cartel the whole banking system is corrupt and crooked, and you really have to remove yourself from it, because if you're not, you're being robbed from. You're just allowing yourself to be like a well from which Goldman Sachs draws water. Mm-hmm. So that's not an ideal situation. So the way I do it, the way I've become my own bank, is by using a combination of cryptocurrency and precious metals. And I use cryptocurrency for exchange purposes. Like I use like the BitPay card and Bitcoin Cash. I use precious metals for savings. It's the only way, frankly, to store your value is by using gold and silver. Crypto is too volatile, and fiat is devalued. So that's the way I do it. And there's all sorts of different ways you can. You don't need a bank to give you investment advice or loans or anything like that. Whatever service a bank provides you with, there's some alternative out there in the cryptocurrency space. So it doesn't make sense to me to fund the famine in Yemen if I don't have to.
Yeah, for sure. So there's even not just a personal interest. There's a completely like moral standpoint as well to come from with this kind of thing.
Well, that's the only interest really for me is getting rid of the crooks at the Federal Reserve. And like I said, I don't want to be forced to pay to enslave my friends and family. I don't want to be paid. I don't want to have to pay for their next war that they dream up or the next bailout, the next stimulus package. I'm tired. I don't want to pay for Deltas because they've mismanaged their airline. It's ridiculous that American people have to pay for this stuff. So use Bitcoin and stop paying for it. And stop, instead of asking them nicely and begging politicians to, stop robbing you, take matters into your own hands and become your own bank. So.
What do you think of the really small cap coins that people would maybe want to like trade in as sort of a speculative thing? I'm thinking like Digibyte and Dogecoin and all those things that are a few cents.
Right. Yeah. I love them. I love them. And during the ICO boom, a lot of people made a lot of money. A lot of agorists made a whole bunch of money. But the problem with some of those little altcoins is that they lack adoption. So they might have great fundamentals. They might function great as a medium of exchange, like a lot of them do. Like, for example, Nano is a great coin. Their fundamentals are wonderful, but no one takes it. You can't use it anywhere. So if you can't spend it, then it lacks liquidity. It lacks salability. No one wants it for exchange purposes. So I hope to see that change. I want to see a very competitive and diverse ecosystem of cryptocurrencies. But right now, like I said, the only efficient medium of exchange that also is widely adopted is Bitcoin Cash.
Mm. All right, great. So in sort of in the way of being your own bank, most people are still employed and they're collecting a paycheck. Is there a way to get around your checking account before getting your money, your dollars into crypto? Like, I mean, do you know if there's any services that just take ACH from your employer and convert it directly?
Oh, you mean like a direct deposit?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. If you go to bitwage.com, there's a great little company that's been around forever.
You got everything.
They can actually, they'll actually direct deposit crypto right into your Bitcoin wallet. Your paycheck can be direct deposited.
They'll even work with the employer. Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. They really streamline the whole process. They've been around for a long time.
Oh, how cool.
I think a better way to do it, honestly, is to approach your employer and offer them a reduced wage for compensation in crypto. And that might sound crazy. People might be thinking to themselves, but Sal, I don't want to work for less. But that's not the case, because if you factor in the Fed's inflation, you're going to make money just off of the rise in prices.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So yeah, and I might even just send that to my HR lady. I don't know if I'm ready to take a reduced wage.
You can even have, like, if I remember correctly, Bitwage will allow you to just have like a portion of your check.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the whole thing deposited.
So what are some other ways, what are some other methods of self-sufficiency? I think being your own bank is so cool. Like, I mean, you make it so commonsensical, I mean, you store your money in stable things like precious metals. What about more growth oriented investments similar to the stock market or, retirement savings or stuff like that?
Right. So there's like all different alternatives, like whatever service you're looking for. There's an agorist alternative. And so far as like investments go, there's a lot of great options. I think trading coins and crypto is a great counter-economic way. I know people who have gotten stupid rich by trading crypto like you would trade Forex, like you trade currencies. I've got a buddy this Russian dude who lives in Bali, who just, he just does nothing basically. He just hangs out and trades crypto, and he makes, millions of dollars. It's kind of silly how much money this guy makes. But the good thing about trading crypto is that, they're providing a service to the counter economy, because when the price gets too high, the trader senses an opportunity and they sell. Or when it gets too low, vice versa. So it's in that way that the trader sort of helps prices remain stable and stay at equilibrium, which encourages adoption, right? It makes people less scared to invest in crypto. So they are contributing to the counter economy in a great way, and that's a great way to make a bunch of money. Also check out BlockFi has a good savings account where it's like, I think the minimum is like really high. I think they'll give you up to 8.6 APY. But I think, like I said, I think like the minimum deposit is like $20,000 or $30,000 for if you want to get that high of a rate. So those are two good options to check out. And then, like I said, the third one that I would recommend is to tokenize a business.
And invest in tokens.
Yeah, right. If you see somebody out there whose company is tokenized, you can already tell that they're ahead of the curve. And by the way, that's only one use of tokens, right? There's other ways you can do it, like content tokenization is another way to use tokens. Like right now, Mark Zuckerberg profits off of any post that you make on Facebook, but in a tokenized model, like mines, for example, you get paid off of that content.
Yeah. Is that similar to what the Brave browser does, where you can just give someone BAT for stuff that you like that they post?
I'm not really sure exactly how BAT works, but I know with mines, like the more people who interact and engage with your post, the more mines tokens you'll be given. And also you can send people tokens that you really like and stuff like that. It works out really well, because then you could use those tokens to boost a post. So let's say like you have like a promotional post, and you have 10 tokens, you can get up to 10,000 additional views or impressions using those tokens, which is great. That's what it's there for.
Yeah, that is pretty great.
Another way that's worth mentioning real quick is Doke token, which is like sort of the agorist alternative to healthcare services. And you could buy, I think it's called like MCT or something like that. And essentially you could buy and sell and trade these tokens, freely, but these tokens can be used and exchanged for real healthcare services. So like you can make like telemedicine appointments with doctors and pay for it using Doke tokens. So, the future is now.
Man, that's fantastic. How do you spell Doke token? Just so I know where to look.
It's just DOC token.
Okay.
And I think it might just be doc.com if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And then I know the token is MCT.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I see it.
Currency token. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if someone wanted to just get into peer-to-peer trading, anybody can use Coinbase or like Uphold, but they're going to get a 1099 at the end of the year. What if somebody wanted to do that, like actually counter-economically?
Check out local.bitcoin.com. This is a great way to do all sorts of trading in a way that doesn't require KYC. It's all peer-to-peer. There's no centralized party to oversee the transfer of funds. So that also means you have to be more careful though too, because a lot of times at these peer-to-peer exchanges, like that's just one of them, but also local coin swap, local cryptos, local Bitcoins. Yeah, they're sort of magnets for scammers.
Yeah, it all seemed kind of shady when I was on there a few months ago.
It is. And you have to be careful because what will happen is like people will they'll do some sort of phishing scam. They'll gain access to Joe Schmo's bank account, and then they can't go spend Joe Schmo's money. So what they'll do is they'll trade it to somebody for crypto, send the crypto to their wallet. Now they have clean money. So that's and then you get stuck with the bill once the person does a chargeback on their PayPal account or something. So you have to be careful, but if you do it properly and you stick with the escrow system, you should be all right.
Cool. What else? What are some of the things that are interesting you right now, other than what we've already talked about?
Oh man. Well, we've got a few projects here that we're working on. One of the ones that I think is, I don't even know if I've spoken publicly about it yet, but it's still sort of just leaving the brainstorming phase. We're going to actually be taking, we plan on taking SLP NFTs, which are just non-fungible tokens. Essentially, they're unique tokens that you can identify. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a political Deadpool, and you're going to be able to buy, let's say, we're going to make 100 tokens, each representing some disgustingly old parasite, the Ayatollah or Queen Elizabeth or Joe Biden or, Raul Castro, someone like that. And we'll assign them a token. You'll be able to buy the token, and then the first one that dies will get a payout.
That is so morbid. I love it.
Yeah. So hopefully that'll be we're just trying to think of ways that we can get the whole community involved in the Bitcoin Cash community in a way that's sort of fun and engaging,
What about Unloose the Goose? So you're part of that. You're part of that gaggle now. I think you kind of replaced Vin Armani when he decided to go off and do other things. Is that right? I
think that the way that works is they're just going to sort of try to accumulate as many agorists as possible.
Yeah, I noticed CJ Kilmer's on there now too.
Yes, CJ's on. So right now it's me, Jack Spirko, John Bush, Xavier Hawk, Pete Quinones, Nicole Sauce, and CJ Kilmer. Curtis Stone was in there. I'm not sure if he still is or isn't, or if he's just taking a break. He might be back. I don't know.
And he's the urban homesteader in Canada, right? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I've been watching his YouTube videos for years. I had no idea that we were even aligned politically. I just thought he had cool YouTube videos.
Yeah, if you want to learn how to grow your own food, that is the guy. That's
sure.
The number one expert to talk to.
Yeah, I tried to get in touch with him. I want to interview some homesteaders, especially someone who calls himself the urban homesteader, being that I'm the Urban Agorist podcast.
Yeah.
Although I'm joking. I might have to become the country agorist here pretty soon. I'm in Minneapolis, so right in the heart of the kind of.
Oh man, is that you're in Ilhan Omar territory, right? Isn't that her district?
Actually, my partner's grandfather owns the building where her offices are located, and he's like a diehard Republican. He's just taking her money, but we always joke about that. Okay, great. So I guess this is the part where we kind of wind it down. Unless do you have anything else that you're working on?
We're always working on all kinds of stuff, but that's probably the most interesting project we have right now. I'm also working on some ways to get people to creating more non-KYC entry and exit points for people using different ways of doing engaging the system in ways that you don't have to access those sort of sketchy exchanges. But that's still sort of in the brainstorming phase. So we'll see how it all plays out.
You're actually looking for real ways to put agorism into action, which I think is needed and very admirable. All right, great. Well, where can people find you?
SalTheAgorist.com is where I usually have most of my stuff. Also, you follow me on social media, whatever platform you're on, I'm there as well. And I write for Agorist Nexus and newlibertarian.io. You can see some of my blogging. I've got an article coming out on the ladder about COVID probably the next day or two. And then Unloose the Goose every Wednesday, live on YouTube. That alternates between 5:30 and 8, I think. We alternate every week the time. And then I have a podcast, The Agorist. So I know that's a mouthful, but I'm all over the internet right now. So
yeah, it's great. You're probably the most out front person in sort of the agorism space. So anyway, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Let's do it again.
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk soon. See you later.
Cool.
Thanks again to Sal the Agorist Mayweather for joining me today for episode 11 of the Urban Agorist podcast. As always, you can find today's show notes at urbanagorist.com/11. You can find links to all of Sal's social media presence, his podcasts, his blogs, and all of that good stuff, along with, once again, Tom Woods' Liberty Classroom, where you can go for the liberty education that you didn't learn in school. That is at urbanagorist.com/woods. Happy Thanksgiving if you're listening to this on the day that it's released. And I will see you in the next episode of the Urban Agorist podcast. Until then, live free.
This is the way